So it is early 2026.
Hmm.
And if you've been glancing at the headlines lately, you probably think the London prime real estate market is just packing its bags and calling it a day.
Right.
Because, I mean, transaction volumes over £5 million, they dropped by roughly 18% throughout 2025. But we have a report here from James Edition published just this January that suggests looking at the raw numbers, well, missing the real story entirely. They're actually calling it the Great London Pivot.
Yeah, it's a classic case of the headline bearing the lead, I think. Bloomberg isn't wrong. I mean, the total volume is down.
Right down significantly.
But if you look beneath the surface, the market isn't crashing. It's actually stabilizing into something we haven't seen in London for a very long time.
And that is exactly our mission for this deep dive. We're looking at how tax policies and shifting demographics are fundamentally changing who actually owns London right now.
Mhm.
Because looking at this data, the vibe has definitely shifted.
Well, significantly. The era of transient capital really seems to be ending. For decades, a London property was essentially a global asset class, like a gold bar you could
Check.
sleep in.
A very expensive cold part.
Exactly. But the 2025 data shows a massive move toward domestic dominance.
Yeah, I was looking at the breakdown of inquiries here, and interest from UK-based buyers rose from 34% to roughly 39% in just 1 year, which seems like a pretty aggressive swing for any real estate market.
It really is. And while U.S. buyers are holding steady, they remain the top international source at about 17%. But interest from countries outside the traditional top five is just falling off a cliff.
Dropping from 38% down to 33%.
Right.
So the tourists, so to speak, are checking out, but the locals are doubling down. What is driving everyone else away so suddenly?
It's policy, plain and simple. We had the abolition of the non-dom tax regime kick in back in April 2025.
Right. And that was a huge signal to the global market.
Huge.
Let's pause there for a second, though, because we hear non-dom thrown around constantly in the news. But for you listening right now, if you aren't an international tax attorney, can you break down what losing that status actually means for a buyer?
Sure. So simply put, non-dom status allowed wealthy residents to live in London but avoid paying UK tax on money they earned elsewhere in the world.
A massive tax shield.
A complete tax shield, and that shield is gone. Now, if you live here, you are generally paying tax here on your global income.
And that is a serious hit to the wallet. Not to mention you have the looming mansion tax proposed for 2028 sitting on top of that.
Precisely. Now, we are just reporting what's in the data here, is not taking a stance on the policies themselves either way.
Of course.
But the economic effect is clear. If you were just parking money in London for a few years as an investment, those policies destroy your returns.
But if you actually live there or plan to stay long-term to raise a family, you're less sensitive to those changes.
Because you're buying a home, not just a line item on a portfolio.
And that distinction between home and portfolio really shows up in the inventory data in this report.
Yeah.
Because right now it feels like there are for sale signs everywhere.
There are. Luxury listings have nearly quadrupled since early 2024.
Quadrupled.
Yes, the shelves are fully stocked. And here's where it gets fascinating. There is a massive mismatch between what is on the shelf and what buyers actually want to buy.
Yes, this is the part that made me stop and reread. The report says the market is flooded with 2- and 3-bedroom apartments.
Right. About 58% of the luxury inventory is these smaller units. They were perfect for that transient capital we talked about, easy to lock up and leave.
But remember, the buyer profile has shifted to people who want to live in London.
And people who live there usually have families or dogs or just want space.
The stats absolutely back this up. Properties with 5 or more bedrooms make up only 20% of the inventory, but they're attracting 37% of all inquiries.
And look at the growth trend. Inquiries for 4-bedroom homes saw the highest jump year over year, up 62%. That is a screaming signal. The market is awash in investment units that nobody wants, while the actual demand is fighting over the limited supply of family homes.
So we aren't seeing a lack of money. We're seeing a change in intent.
Buyers are looking for functionality now. They want a home, not a safety deposit box.
So what does this all mean for you as the listener? If you are sitting on the sidelines, is this a time to jump in?
Well, we are seeing a rare combination right now: elevated inventory and vendor flexibility. If you are a buyer who has already settled your tax status, maybe you're a domestic buyer or a committed international resident, this is a prime window. You have a lot of leverage right now, at least until those 2028 measures start to really bite.
A buy the dip moment, but
Yeah.
specifically for the people who plan to stay.
It's the only way the math works now.
I want to leave you with a thought to mull over. We spent decades talking about London as a place where global billionaires park their cash in empty penthouses. If the transient capital is truly packing up, and the demand for actual family homes is skyrocketing, are we witnessing the end of London properties acting as global assets and a return to London just being a city for residents?
It's a return to utility over speculation.
A fascinating shift to watch.
Hmm.
That's it for this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.